We have breaking news from the NHL. The Los Angeles Kings have themselves a new general manager, and it's Ken Holland. We'll discuss the move coming up next. So welcome back to another video here at Top Shelf Hockey. As I mentioned, we have some fairly significant breaking news from the NHL. We've discussed this as a rumor for the past few days here, but it's now been confirmed that the Los Angeles Kings have indeed hired Ken Holland to be the next general manager for their organization. Of course, they decided to mutually part ways with former general manager Rob Blake, who was at the helm for several years here as well. Certainly Blake took over, basically went through a rebuild with this club. They kind of accelerated the rebuild by keeping some big stars by Kopitar, Doughty, and of course, went after some key names via trade and free agency as well. Obviously, there was a lot of pressure from the veterans that they didn't really want to go into a deep rebuild, and they kind of went on the fly here. And they've been a perennial playoff team for the past 4 years, unable to get over the hump, though, and win a first-round series, as they've ran into the Edmonton Oilers each and every time. So why not hire the Oilers' former general manager? They brought in a player from the Oilers last year, Warren Foegele. Obviously, Holland, had, to some degree left his mark on the Oilers as a franchise after being the general manager there for a while. I think it's fair to say probably the last at least half season or so he was there. Jeff Jackson was also there as CEO, and I think fair to say probably calling the shots and really was the kind of the de facto GM in a way. But Ken Holland, for the first time this year, was not in a GM role. He had spent 27 previous consecutive years as a general manager, of course, with Edmonton, and prior with that, most of those with the Detroit Red Wings. And, the Red Wings had a 25-year run of consistent playoff teams, and of course, won some Stanley Cups in there as well. So he's had a lot of success over the years. It's been a while since that success has been at a higher level. I think it's fair to say that we could be a little bit critical of the drafting development and even some of the contracts that he's done over the last few years. I know one of the last big things he did in Detroit, I can think of one of the last drafts that he was running there. They selected Philip Zadina over Quinn Hughes. I was quite surprised by that. I mean, I know Zadina was a high-ranked prospect, and the way that they were so happy that he kind of fell in their lap and they had no choice. But, at the end of the day, it turned out to be a massive mistake. The Darnell Nurse contract obviously comes to mind with the Edmonton Oilers as being one of the, the big blunders there. Yes, Nurse has a role, and I think if Nurse was paid more appropriately, then I don't think people would be criticizing him, at least not to the level that he gets now. He gets a lot of critical, talk obviously about him and his play, which is well deserved. But like I said, when you've got a player making $9 million playing that way, it's going to come with that. But if he was more of a $5-6 million defenseman, it wouldn't be the case at all. But obviously things were projecting in one way for Nurse. They haven't really, another contract that hasn't really lived up to the hype. But, at the end of the day, is that all on Holland? No, it's obviously a team staff and obviously getting a lot of recommendations from other, AGMs and pro scouting, amateur scouting and all that. So certainly don't want to sit here and harp on the negatives because obviously he's got lots of positives in his career as well. But after parting ways with Blake, it certainly seemed like there was a chance that the Kings might go with an internal hire. Maybe a guy like Marc Bergevin, who has been an advisor to Blake and is a former NHL GM who had a fair bit of success in Montreal and seems like somebody who is now interested in getting back into that GM seat. He was previously not only linked to this job with LA, but as a candidate with the New York Islanders for their open spot there as well. So clearly they wanted a different outside approach. They probably, as an organization, after their 4 straight years in the playoffs, yes, they've lost every time to the Edmonton Oilers, but I think they feel like they're getting better as a team. I think this year's loss was probably more of a sting, more of a taking it even harder situation, because I think they felt that they were truly a better club. They had a better regular season result as well. And I think they feel like they're not far off from not only getting past the first round, but being able to be in the conversation to contend to win the West and be a cup contender. So they likely want to have a very experienced GM who's got some experience working with teams like that. If they went with a first-time GM or somebody who may not have ever been that far or that close to winning the Stanley Cup, maybe they don't feel like that's the right move for the organization. So that to me is like what I gather is going through the mind of Luc Robitaille and the Los Angeles Kings as they make this decision. But Holland's got, like I said, 27 plus years now of experience. Obviously another older guy is going to be 70 here soon. But, will that wisdom pay off for the Los Angeles Kings? Can he get them over the hump? Those are the big questions. I'm not so sure, to be completely honest, but time will tell. Over time, coaches, GMs, they live, they learn, they get better. They learn from their mistakes. And like I said, it's not a coincidence he's been given so many opportunities and stayed in this role in the league for so long. So we'll see if this works out for the Los Angeles Kings and what they can do moving forward here. So let me know your thoughts on this big news for LA moving forward, and we'll discuss further in the comments. If you're new to the channel, make sure you subscribe and stick around. We'll keep you up to date with all the news, rumors, and analysis of all 32 NHL teams. Thanks for watching. I'll catch you next time.